Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Joy-Filled Universe podcast. I am your host, Lisa Ryan, and she is having some technical difficulties today. She absolutely is, and I'm noticing that I have already kind of started this podcast. This is my third time through just starting it because my headphones decided they don't want to work today. I have my right one is working, but my left one has decided it doesn't want to work. So it just feels off. So I'm struggling a little bit here, and I'm hoping that it's actually recording and I'm not just seeing blips on the screen. So either way, we're going to get through this. I'm going to cross my fingers and I'm going to hand it over to the universe. And so there we are. And another thing is that this episode, true to form, I had a totally different episode that I was ready to record for today. But at the 11th hour, I was like, nah, I feel inspired to talk about this over here instead. So I'm not as prepared as I like to be, but that's okay because we're amongst friends here and we're just going to get this party started, okay? So bear with me. Here we go. So let's see. I'm just going to kick this off with this little statement here. What if I told you that the universe does not respond to the life that we say we want? It responds to the person who we consistently choose to become, which is why for today's episode, we are going to talk about how truly important it is to rehearse our future selves when we are looking to manifest the reality that we desire. And so every day, right? Every day through our thoughts and our emotions, our choices and our actions, we are practicing an identity. We are then already rehearsing. So if you're wondering, like, I don't know how to do it, guess what? You do, because you're already doing it every day, which leads us to the fact that the question isn't really whether or not we're rehearsing, because clearly we are. The question is, are we rehearsing the life that we have outgrown and want to move past? Or are we rehearsing the life we desire to create? Which, if you ask me, I prefer the latter. It is so magical and exactly what today's episode is about. And it's quickly becoming one of my newest and almost one of my favorite practices. And it's largely inspired from an incredible book that I am now reading for the second time in a row already, which is Matt Cook's book titled Beyond Wanting. And Cook is spelled with an E at the end, C-O-O-K-E, and it's Beyond Wanting. And I'm just going to do a quick book advert. I get nothing out of this, but I love this book, and so I hope you would love it too. But I have read hundreds of manifestation books, and I have loved about 99% of them. And Beyond Wanting has some stuff within it that I have learned and I've read about before, which is awesome. But it also has some really good new goodies in there as well. And I just love how the author pulls it all together in such a practical and digestible way so that we can all just get started ASAP, which is like one of my favorite things. It's a practical, easy to use, let's get going and let's start manifesting. So that is what this book is. So due to my current fascination with all of the content, right, I'm certain that this is not going to be the last episode where I discuss some of what I'm learning from this very terrific book. Okay, that's it. Advert is complete. And now I'm going to get moving on. So in this book, right, is an entire chapter dedicated to rehearsing our lives. And it is properly titled Rehearse. And what I loved about this particular chapter, beyond the practice itself, is the reminder that we don't have to chase what we desire. Rather, by simply rehearsing our future selves, we begin to broadcast that frequency into the universe, which in turn will attract like energy and opportunities and events that are aligned to that frequency. And so I am going to use the chapter and I'm going to try to break it down in a very succinct way. And I'm going to hope to do it justice because it's truly, really good. So anyway, I believe that we all kind of know what it means when I say rehearse, right? What a rehearsal truly is. Actors rehearse before an opening night in a play. Athletes rehearse their events or their plays over and over in their minds until their bodies know exactly what to do. And musicians rehearse their music so much so that it becomes second nature. I personally also rehearse. I rehearse typically when I have the outline done more than what it is today, but I usually make it a standard practice to rehearse my podcast before I actually record, just to make sure that it flows in a great way. And in my day job, I love to rehearse delivering a briefing or a message to an audience. It's just good practice. So rehearsal in all of these cases typically precedes excellence. And somehow I tend to do this when it comes to becoming the new version of ourselves, because we do live in a very on-demand culture, so we expect to just magically wake up one day being that new version of ourselves. So for me, when it comes to the Joy-Filled Universe 2.0, the new version of me means being a wizard at all of my coaching material and manifestation practices, along with participating in lots of seminars and retreats and connecting with like-minded humans so that I can continue to learn and grow, so that the material that I deliver week over week is really valuable to all of you. And I also want to have like the perfect technology strategies in place and in an operational type of capacity, so that I am expanding around the entire globe and raising the collective vibe and being one of the top self-development podcasts, right? That's my future self when it comes to the Joy-Filled Universe. But the most unfortunate thing is that's not how transformation works. I wish it was, but we don't get to wake up like the next day after having a clear vision about our desire and just voila, there we are. I mean, that would be amazing, but that's not the norm. However, the more we intentionally rehearse our future self, the quicker we bring the opportunities and the people and circumstances into our reality. And so you might be catching on here, and you might already get the fact that rehearsing goes hand in hand with visualizing. And I can't stress enough that it is something we need to intentionally practice every single day, as if we are already living the life we are creating. And now, as we have discussed in the past, and I think many of you probably know if you're living in the manifestation type of world, but one of the best ways to visualize is through meditating. And for me, I usually prefer like guided meditation, but either one is effective because it quiets our mind and it removes the mental chatter, and we become really relaxed and open to visualizing our desires without any resistance. And if you're not someone who likes to meditate, then do whatever it is that helps you to quiet your mind so that you can be open. Some people like to go out for a walk, or they even like just sitting on a park bench. Some like to drift away to soothing music. Some may even just go and get a massage. Whatever works for you is what you should do. And so in the book, right, Matt Cook referenced one of the most decorated. So in the book, Matt Cook referenced one of the most decorated Olympians of all time, and that is the Superman swimmer himself, Michael Phelps. And I think I had heard this story in a different version in another world, but either way, I loved the story, and so and he used it in his book, so we're going to use it here. And so in the book, Matt Cook referenced one of the most decorated Olympians of all time, and that is the Superman swimmer himself, Michael Phelps. And I think I've heard the version of this story before. However, I love how it was used here, because it was about how Phelps's coach, along with his mother, worked with him from a very young age to practice progressive relaxation techniques so that he could relax and clear his mind and visualize his performance in his swimming events. And it's kind of like watching a movie of yourself, right? Michael visualized his perfect races, along with races where things would go wrong, but he visualized persevering anyway to the win. And this was underscored in the 2008 Olympics when Michael Phelps's goggles started to leak shortly after the race started, and he could barely see. However, because he had visualized this successful race over and over again in his mind, his body and his mind and his spirit largely took over, and he went on to not only win the race, but he smashed the world record while he was at it. And so this practice, also as the book notes, doesn't have to be just for athletes. We can actually use this in areas of our lives like our careers and relationships, right? We can rehearse through visualization the career that we want, or the relationships that we desire, or the environments that we want to be within, also that we can stay on a high vibe frequency rather than being swept up in drama or just negative triggering emotional events that bring us to a state of anger or jealousy or envy. And as I have said already, we have to make this a daily practice. And the reason why rehearsing is so important when it comes to visualizing is because it's one of the ways that we can rewire our minds and create those new neural pathways that become more and more familiar to us and eventually become our default setting. And we did discuss rewiring our minds several episodes ago. So if you're not clear, I'm not going to go too far deep here in this episode, but please go back and have a listen. I can't remember the name of it, but hopefully it's easy to find. Anyway, I do love that back then, and even in Matt Cook's book, he uses the analogy of creating neural pathways to blazing a new trail in the woods, right? We all know what those lovely trails that are already carved out for us look like. They're easy to follow. There's no debris in the way, but those can also be likened to the old version of ourselves that we're trying to outgrow and the ones that we want to move past. However, the new pathways, well, they're still all covered up with lots of tree branches and grass and overgrown bushes where you can hardly even see the ground underneath them. However, if we routinely walk that path and clear it away, we eventually create a nice, clear pathway with no debris or resistance in the way. And that's just how the neural pathways in our brains work. And as Matt Cook said, after we have created these new preferred pathways through mental rehearsal, our brains start to treat our visualized future selves as a real lived experience. And what he had said, which I loved, was our brains start remembering our future before it physically manifests. So what that means is we are no longer wanting our future because we have already become it. And the practiced mental rehearsals then create our thoughts, emotions, and beliefs, which allow us to think, feel, and behave in alignment with our new future selves, which means that the opportunities and the resources and the people that we all need to align with our desires will naturally manifest into our reality. And so these mental rehearsals largely train our minds to make all of this our default setting as if we have already accomplished our desires, which I love, and I'm totally here for it. So let's talk about how we're going to do this, right? How do we rehearse our future selves? We know how to rehearse exactly who we are right now, but how do we rehearse our future selves? Well, it starts with making ourselves the main character of our own mental movie. So getting super clear on what it is that we want, just like we do with visualization. We focus on what it is, big picture, along with all of the details and emotional feelings that come along with it. And this then becomes our personal movie that features us as the main character. And when we play it, we become so excited to see this as our true mental reality. It becomes something that we completely look forward to, and we can watch this movie while we meditate or while we go out for some exercise or however we choose to quiet our minds. Me personally, I have taken some time to work with AI and I have created some pictures and sketches of desires that I'm manifesting into my reality. So I have pictures of my dream home, my dream recording studio, connections and relationships with people all over the globe, giving to charities, and freedom to travel wherever I want. And of course, there are like fun images of me with my friends and my boyfriend and my family, all that stuff too. So because it's just fun, and it's great to always put ourselves in the picture. So anyway, there's a bunch more, obviously, because I'm a big dreamer. And what I really love about pulling all these pictures together is that it transforms my desires into something that's tangible, something that I can hold and look at. And from there, I dream into the movie that it creates in my mind. So every evening before I go to bed, I get out my book and I flip through the pictures and sketches that I have created. And with each one, I use an idea from the book and I think into the perfect day once my desires have manifested. I think about how I'm feeling, what's my energy like, who's with me, who's messaging or calling me at that particular time, what's on my agenda for the day, how do I look, what am I wearing, what am I eating or am I tasting in my mouth, what am I looking at, what does the air smell like, what does it feel like, and what does my environment sound like. Every detail and all of my senses are engaged during this time. And most importantly, I'm keenly aware of all of the emotions that are coming up for me, and I'm fully immersed in the moment. And before you tell me that you're too busy, okay, that you're just too busy and you don't have time to do any of this, I want you to know that this whole exercise literally takes 15 to 30 minutes tops. And sometimes I do this in silence, and sometimes I do it with like a playlist or music that just supports my mental movie, but you can do it anywhere. And sometimes if I'm on like public transportation, I just close my eyes and I drift away there. It's really easy to do. And so when I'm closing it out each night, I do it with full gratitude. And I say, thank you for this or something better. And that's it. That's all it takes. So whether you're looking to manifest a new podcast or the perfect partner, career, your own business, a new home, travel, perfect health, or losing weight, whatever it is, create the movie of your perfect day as it exists once your desire has manifested. And remember, genuinely and truly allow yourself to live into this vision by engaging all of your senses. That's really important, along with all of the emotions that come up for you. And something that Matt Cook said, which resonated for me when our perfect day has truly come to fruition, and it certainly will be magical when it does, I'm just going to say that, but it isn't something that will happen just once. It can become the blueprint that we routinely return to appreciate and celebrate the dream that we have manifested. And this very, very high vibe energy that we return to will continue to reinforce the neural pathways of abundance and joy that we have created. And so the more that we do this, right, the more that we continue to traverse these lovely neural pathways that we have created in our minds, the more our subconscious mind will accept it as our reality, and even better, as our new normal. Okay, so I do want to say that rehearsing the future version of ourselves is not pretending to be someone we're not. Rather, it's practicing who we are capable of becoming. And I say this because some people hear this idea, and I have bounced it off of some people, and they have said to me, isn't that just faking it or like fooling yourself? To which I say, no, it's not. Not at all. It is actually the opposite. It is becoming aligned with who we truly are underneath the fear and the doubt and the limiting beliefs and all of the stories that we have collected throughout our lives. We are choosing to no longer allow our thoughts that align to those kind of emotions to continue to be our default setting. Rather, we are aligning ourselves to the future version of who we are becoming as we manifest the abundant lives that we all deserve to live. Regardless of how old we are or where we are on our life journey, this practice is free. It's free to all of us, and it's available for every single one of us to use. Our brains, everybody, are incredibly adaptable. And as we have discussed, through that lovely word, neuroplasticity, the brain literally rewires itself based on repeated thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. And if you're wondering how long it's going to take to get our brain rewired and blaze those new pathways, well, research suggests that it takes on average about 66 days for a new behavior to become automatic or to become a new habit, which means every day that we intentionally think, act, speak, move, and make decisions like our future self, we are moving closer and closer to creating our new mental default setting, because our brains constantly ask us one question, which is, what do you want me to become really good at? So if every day we rehearse anxiety, we'll become exceptional at anxiety. If every day we rehearse scarcity, well, then we become incredibly efficient at scarcity. If every day we rehearse self-doubt, guess what? We become really good at that too. But as we have learned today, the opposite is also true. We can rehearse abundance and joy through the practice of living into the version of ourselves that exists in our desired reality. And so, what is it gonna be? What will the movie called A Day in the Life of My Future Self be, where all of your desires have manifested? And if it feels overwhelming, because sometimes it does, then just focus on like one or two things and make the time to visualize and intentionally rehearse being your future self every single day, just like we have discussed in this episode. And I actually have been doing this for a little over a week now, I think. And I will say, I am already feeling encouraged and excited and truly knowing that I am creating my dreams. And it really feels awesome. It's kind of hard to describe, but it really does feel good and it feels promising. And I've noticed that a lot of the mental chatter with the self-doubts and telling me like, you need to be perfect about all of this and you need to get it right the first time, all of that mental chatter is getting quieter for me. And I love that. And so I'm really encouraged that as I continue to rehearse, that's going to become stronger and stronger, and in turn becoming my default setting. And another thing that I want to say too, though, is that this practice can even be applied toward the environments that we have to engage but may feel difficult for us. And if that's the case, then start rehearsing a different feeling state. Start visualizing the environment that you desire for yourself and make it a practice. And just watch how everything will start to shift in all the best ways, because the universe isn't waiting for us to just become someone else. It's waiting for us to believe in and rehearse the person that we all have the potential to be. And that is going to be a wrap for this week. And I hope that you found today's episode to be helpful and applicable. I'm also hoping that it recorded. And I'm going to say I got to get new headphones because this has been a little bit clunky for me in hearing myself in only one ear. But either way, I do hope for all of you that it has been helpful and something that you can put into practice every day, your daily lives. I would also just totally love to hear about how it's working for you because it's something really fast and it's really easy and it's actually a whole lot of fun too. So, I also want to say, if you are interested in reading the book that we have discussed today, it is called Beyond Wanting by Matt Cook, and his last name has an E at the end, C-O-O-K-E. It's really good, and I super highly recommend it. So that's going to be it. I'm at the end of my very sparse notes, but I do hope that this episode flowed really well for you. I'm trying more and more to be less perfect and more real. So there we are. That's how I'm showing up. And yeah, that's going to be a wrap for this week. I am your host, Lisa Ryan. This is the Joy-Filled Universe podcast, where we explore all the tools and tricks that are going to make your universe even more joyful than it already is. And I will see you next week. Bye.